All right, let's check out the news and see what's going on here. So, this is the first thing I came across today, and this is another reason to just stay home and not go out. It's entitled, What is Needle Spiking? What Travelers Should Know. And you always think it won't happen to you. And bottom line is, this is people that are getting either injected with a needle at a bar, or somebody's taking a syringe and shooting an unknown substance into their drink. In either case, you don't know what you're getting injected with, obviously. And I mean, it would seem to me that if you get stuck with a needle of any gauge, you're probably going to feel it. But I suppose if you're drunk enough already, you might not even notice it. This is crazy stuff. I don't know if this is happening a whole lot in the United States. This is an article that emanated from the UK. And maybe that's happening more over there than here. I haven't come across it in the ERs that I work in yet, but wouldn't surprise me if I see it tomorrow. So there's reason number one to stay home. Second news article I have here is about Suboxone use, and that in rural America, they're starting to prescribe Suboxone more often, and I think that's a great thing. I got my Suboxone license back, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And at that time, I had to go through something like 24 hours of education online, and you couldn't speed ahead. You had to just endure all 24 hours of lectures and whatnot in order to prescribe Suboxone. I did that. And as soon as I finished, I think it was 2 months later, New York State came out and said, you don't need that. We'll just let you prescribe Suboxone anyway. But Suboxone is, really a life-saving tool for people that are addicted to opiates like heroin. It's a substitute. It's an opioid agonist antagonist. And the key in prescribing it is that the person has to be in withdrawal. If they're not in withdrawal and you give Suboxone, you'll probably put them in withdrawal. So you have to identify those people that are truly in withdrawal. Those are the people that are going to take Suboxone. Suboxone, typically has a half-life of 1 to 2 days, but there are people that need to take it every day or even a couple of times a day. But it's being prescribed much more liberally, and it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing it more in the rural areas. I've always found that the rural areas, the small towns, particularly up here in upstate New York, the small towns per capita probably have bigger drug problems than the inner city areas. And it's counterintuitive, but I don't know if kids just have more time on their hands, they're more curious, they're bored. I don't know what it is, but there's always been more substance use per capita. I don't know if that's borne out in statistics or not, but it's always been my experience. Next is an article about what we wish we knew before our sons got caught in the triple-demic hitting hospital care. And so this is in regard to the RSV, the COVID, and the influenza that seems to be hitting hospital emergency rooms. And, yes, COVID is still out there. As a matter of fact, I got COVID for the first time throughout the entire pandemic. I got COVID and became symptomatic on Thanksgiving Day. So that actually canceled all the Thanksgiving festivities. And I felt pretty poor for a day or two, but primarily I was just really super fatigued. But my hospital policy is that I had to be out of work for a minimum of 7 days, and they required me to do an at-home test on day 5. I was still positive on day 5, even though I was feeling much better. And so I wound up staying out for a full 10 days. And it's one of the few things that my group will actually pay for. I was on jury duty for 2 weeks on a jury trial, and I had to make up those hours. But for COVID, I got 10 days. So for me, I was fortunate. I really wasn't that ill, just really tired, and that's it. But yeah, the hospital ERs are getting hit pretty hard. The pediatric ER at my hospital is overwhelmed, and so we're boarding a lot of patients. Not only in the emergency department, but we've opened up some other floor space and, recruiting nurses to work overtime, and also recruiting some outlying hospitals that typically don't take care of pediatrics and encouraging them to keep some pediatric patients at their hospital. And I know that our children's hospital is working with them to make sure that that's a safe move, but that's what we're that's what we're doing now is we're having outlying hospitals take over some of the pediatric care. And, it's early into the season. Who knows what the next couple of months are going to bring. But I think we're all kind of more experienced now as to what to do when the hospital gets busy, when the boarding situation gets bad. We're getting much better at handling it. Nevertheless, you come into my ER, you're going to find wait times that are just astronomical. And it's because we just don't have beds in the ER to see patients, because our beds are filled with boarded patients that are admitted to the hospital, but we've got no place to put them. And our ER nurses are taking care of those patients. So not a good situation, and probably not going to get better anytime soon, but we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Okay, and we'll finish it off with one more story, and this is really sad. This is entitled TikTok's Viral Challenges Keep Luring Young Kids to Their Deaths. And this is about the blackout challenge. Now, this is something that, again, I've heard of, and apparently it's happening. And what kids are doing is they're trying to partially asphyxiate themselves. They're trying to choke themselves because there apparently is like an adrenaline rush, a catecholamine release just before you lose consciousness. Now, this is something that even back in my paramedic days, I used to come across this, and we called it autoeroticism at that time. And it was guys would, and girls too, but mostly men, would hang themselves in a, let's say like a closet, and they would usually have somebody else there with them to save them at the last minute. But it was all about the sexual gratification, I guess, of nearly passing out. There was one case where I got called to a house, and this is back before 911. So people would call EMS directly on the phone. We got called to a house, and we arrive at the house, and police typically didn't respond with us on most calls unless we asked them or unless they got the call, because like I said, back in those days, everything was direct. If you wanted the police, you called the police directly. If you wanted the fire department, you called them directly. So we see that the front door is open, and back in those days, we didn't wait for police to arrive. I mean, we just walked in. I mean, it was the way it was back then. So we walked in, and it didn't appear to be anybody in the house, and so we're just kind of walking around room to room. We did call on the radio and ask for police to respond because it was an open door. And I guess, back in those days, you're 20-something years old, you're curious, you feel like you're invincible, you don't think anything's ever going to happen to you, right? So I go into a bedroom, and there's a closet door that's partially open and a big full-length mirror that's sitting right in front of the closet. And I thought that was kind of odd. Why are you pointing the mirror into the closet? And then I look and I see that there's a guy that's hanging within the closet. And apparently what this was all about was he did have somebody there with him who apparently didn't do their job and didn't save him at the last minute. And so that person took off, probably out the front door, which is why the front door was open. And anyway, I guess part of the other thrill is to, have a mirror there and watch yourself as you're asphyxiating. So anyway, that was what I was experiencing back in the 1980s, and it's still going on now. And this is really, really sad. It says here in the article, the game has a name, the Blackout Challenge. Kids around the world were choking themselves with household items until they blacked out, filming the adrenaline rush they got regaining consciousness and then posting the videos on social media. It's a modern incarnation of choking dares that have been around for decades, only now they're being delivered to children by powerful social media algorithms and reaching those too young to fully grasp the risk. I don't have TikTok. I've never gotten on TikTok. I mean, I know that there's YouTube Shorts, which is kind of the same thing, so I'm told, but yeah, I guess I'm not missing anything on TikTok. So, all right, that's it for the news for now. Can't wait to see what tomorrow's news brings. Till then, have a good evening. I'll talk to you in the next video.